In this episode of the Thumbnail Media Viewer, we're going to be implementing the media session and its corresponding media controller for our application. Welcome to Mobile Application Tutorials. My name's Nigel. Okay, we're going to actually plug our application into the media session and the media controller. I'm just going to display a background from the Android development website, and basically you can see here we've got a media controller and a media session. And basically the media session connects with our media player. So your application, a video player application, can support a number of different types of players, such as the media player and XC player, I believe it is, or any number of players. So the media session extracts that from the application and allows the application to support a number of media players. Also, the media session can inform our application of various states, such as if we're using a remote Bluetooth headset and that's pressing play, the media session can inform us to respond to commands via that. And we also have the media controller. The media controller directly plugs in with the UI of the application. So you can change UIs. You can have any number of UIs and you can just set them up to communicate with the media controller. And basically the media controller and the media session communicate with each other, and we can receive communications from either the media controller or the media session via playbacks, such as a media session playback or media controller playback. Anyway, enough talking, let's get started. I'll switch across to my code here. First thing I'm going to need to do here is just to update my Gradle build file here, so I'll do that now. That should be it. I'm just going to resync my Gradle file. That's now done. Now we can move across to the video play activity here. Right, first thing I want to do here is, if we go back to our diagram here, I want to implement a media session. If we note, the media session is the part that communicates directly with, in our case, the media player. So the media session is going to tell us when to play, stop, pause, basically. So I'm just going to do the media session part. So we'll go back into code here. So first thing I want to do is to create a media session, and I'm just going to create it here, a media session and its callback. I'm just going to call this M session, nice and simple. And now I'm going to create a class for the callback actually. In this case it's going to be a callback. And I said I was going to create a class, so I better do that. Oh. And I'll call this one media session callback. Extend that from the media session callback. And I'm now going to implement a number of methods here. Override the methods. Right, so I'm going to use the callback. I want play, that's a critical command, on pause, and on stop, as well as the constructor there. Okay, I'm just going to implement all those. And while I'm there, I'm going to pass in the context. When I create this class object, I just want the context of the activity. Just a few of the methods that we're going to move into this class will require that. And while I'm there, inside this class, let's create a context member, private member. And we'll just call it mContext. and we can initialize it in the constructor as it is. Such as that. Right, now remember how the media session communicates directly, and the media session callbacks communicates directly with the media player. There's a bunch of functionality in the existing implementation of this application that call directly down to the media player. We need to now remove that across into the media session callback class now. So what I'm going to do here is just remove all this, cut all this. So surface holder, callback, media player, on completion listener, and the audio manager stuff. And I'm going to insert it now into our media session callback class. And we need to copy all the corresponding methods as well. So if I scroll on down here, now media play, media pause, these all call directly to the media player, so they live inside the media session callback class. And I'm going to move the surface created stuff across as well, because surface created basically is used for when we create the media player. Again, that goes into media session. And the audio focus as well, that's again, the audio focus will be calling directly to the media player as well. So the audio focus stuff does have to go into the media session callback as well. Okay, now I'm just going to paste that at the bottom of this class as such. Now I need to move some of the audio player methods into my new class. So these three methods here can now be put into my media session callback class. And we can just put them straight under here. And let's check the initialization as well in the onCreate, the audio stuff that we should move into the constructor of the media session callback. Here we are. So we're just going to now remove these three. And go back into our new class and put them into the constructor here. Just paste them. Oh, paste them inside here as such. Okay, let's start tidying some of the stuff up. Okay, this because I'm now inside the media session callback class, I now need to use my context in context, and now's a good stage for us to start fixing any issues and bugs that have occurred with this. Okay, again, surface created, we're going to use the context. Carry on down. Okay, we're going to need to move this class across to here. This is our callback. And as you can see, it causes a media pause, tells the player to pause. Again, that has to go into the media session callback. So we'll just stick it into our media session callback class. I'll probably just stick it down here. And carry on looking for any issues. Okay, play and pause click. I'm going to reiterate with the documentation here. Any UI calls call the media controller itself. We don't, now we're using media session, we don't have access to the player itself, so any UI calls itself will have to call down to the media controller, which we'll do in a little while. So let's go back into our code here. So basically the media pause, the media play is the media playing. The media play and pause click is from the UI, it's set up in the UI. So I'm just going to delete this code. We're not using it now. We'll be doing the same thing, but we'll be calling down to the media controller to do this stuff. So I can just delete this. On stop here, again, we can't call this because this is from on stop again, it's from the UI. So we'll call down to the controller. So we can delete that. On pause again, same, we'll be calling pause via the controller. And on resume, I'm going to actually remove this, but before I do this, let me implement, the key thing this does is it implements a surface folder for us, which we use for the creation of the media player. Because it's used for the media player, it's got to be pushed across to the media session, because only the media session can communicate with the players. So what we do here is we just create a holder, and then we provide our surface holder to the callback. The callback's already there, it's been moved into the media session callback. So what we're going to do here is just, I'm going to implement this code first in the constructor of the media session callback, and then I'll delete that method actually. So where are we? Just down here, I can call the media session surface view, get the holder for that, and then add the callback. And the callback's already been moved across. Surface holder callback is just here. So we've got it now here. Now if I go back down, I'm going to actually remove that. I'm just going to manually turn on and off the player this time. Okay, so I'm going to actually remove this method here as such. Okay, all the bugs have gone away. Now we need to just go in there and start populating the functionality inside our media session callback class. Okay, I'm happy with the constructor here. The audio becoming noisy, so when you remove the headset, that's fine, the code's now in place. So down here we can just call our media play as such, on play, and we get an on pause request from the media session callback. We just call media pause, and on stop is basically stopping the player. When we get this call, we want to release the resources. Okay, so I'm just going to create a new method here called, actually I'll create it down underneath here, a new method called release resources. And let me go to the documentation again here. Right, I'm going to go down to building a video app just down here, and I want to click on the media session callbacks. So the media session callbacks, if we go back to our application, this is the media session callbacks. So we've now established this. So there's a set of rules we have to abide by, the documentation here. And one is on play, set our media session to being active. But when we receive an on stop, set the media session active to false. So let's do that, and then we're just going to tidy up the media player resources. Okay. So if we go back down here to release resources, so first thing to do is to call mSession and set active to false. Now we're just going to release the media player resources. If that's not equal to null, we'll release everything. And I think I'll call stop on the media player first. Then I'm going to reset the media player. Then release the media player resources. A graceful way of closing everything down. And then I'm going to set the media player to null. And now on stop we can call release resources. Okay, that part's now happened. And before I forget about it, let's initialize the media player and the media session callback, and then we'll come back down to our media session callback. Just don't want to forget it. Okay, so down here, I'm going to initialize our media session object. and it's going to take a couple of arguments here. I'm just going to use the context, which is this, and it wants a tag. And believe it or not, I don't think I have a tag here, so let's quickly create a tag. Log t, there's our tag, go back down to onCreate, and in here create, it's called tag. Okay, the media session object's created. Let's set up our callback. What is it? Set callback, and this, we can create our callback object here basically. Where are we? Callback, and just pass in the object itself to use as the context. Okay, one other thing we're going to have to do is set some flags, just telling us what the media session is going to support. So the media session is going to support, I'll just put the code in and talk as I'm doing it. So the media session is going to support, it's called set flags. We're going to support a couple of flags here. Let's go to media. Flag, handle, media buttons. Think of those as external buttons, such as if you've got a headset on with play buttons, or Bluetooth headset which has got play, pause, stop buttons. We'll be supporting that. No, I haven't yet tested it, but it's there. At a later stage, if there's an issue, I will revisit this tutorial. And we also want to support our play and stop buttons through the transport. So if I go media session, flag handles transport control. So basically it means we're going to support our own play, pause buttons from the UI. Okay, we'll keep that to that. That's the media session now initialized. Now we'll go back into the media session callback. And where were we? Okay, now we're going to do the media play and the media pause functionality. So we've got media play. One thing we have here on this line here, we're setting the image resource. That's a UI call. Let's go back to our document. So that's a UI call actually, and we can only do that from the media controller. So can't do that, so let's delete it. But the media session will inform the controller callback, and we'll do it in the controller callback to change basically the icon. Okay, so now we're going to start playing the media, but we also want to set the media session state and set it up to respond to various actions as well. So we'll do that now. And before we do anything else, we need to add another method here, and it's called the PlaybackState. And it's just going to be actually PlaybackState builder. And I'm just going to call it mPlayback builder. A bit shorter the name than I normally use. Stands for mPlaybackState builder. Okay, and we'll initialize that in our onCreate. Where we playback builder, initialize that object. And doesn't need to take any parameters. So we've got the builder here. So let's go back into our media player here. And the playback state is going to be what we configure our settings for what events we want to respond to, and telling the media session what state we're in. Okay, so let's call our media player builder. First thing we want to do is set action, set the capabilities of what we're going to support here. So if we're playing, we want to support the pause and the stop state basically. So if we go back into the PlaybackState compact object, and if we're in play, we want to support pause basically, and we want to support stop. So if we're playing, we want to respond to pause or stop. And now we inform the media session of our state. So called media build again, set state. And the first state is we tell it what state we're in. So media play, we're going to be playing. it's going to be state play. It takes a number of other arguments here. One's position, which we can get from the media player. One's speed, it's a float, and I'm going to set that to just 1, which is just normal speed. And we'll update the time. We can use the system clock for that by getting elapsed real time. Now, once we've set all these playback state settings, we're going to want to set them to the session. So we'll call the session and set playback state basically. And we can call our mBuilder object, and now we need to call build to actually pass the builder across. And that's it for the play. Now we're going to have to do something very similar for the pause as well. So as you can see here, again we're setting the UI, and we can't do that from the media session callback, so let's delete this. Okay, and same again here, we'll set up our playback state callback, set actions, and this action we're in pause, so we want to support play or stop basically. Respond to those actions and stop. And again we need to update the state. So set state. No, I want to set state. And the state here, we're paused. Yep, we're in paused. And again, we'll get the position from the media player itself. Speed is 1, of course, keeping it standard speed. And update time from system clock as such. And we need to set that to the media session. Set playback state and builder, and we need to build that to pass the playback state object as such. Okay, we can now leave everything else the same here. Note how when I release the resources, which is called from onStop, I set active to false. Let's go back to our documentation here, and this use this as a reference. So on stop, set active to false. So let's do that. Okay, so actually let's rewind that. When I play, I want to set the active to true. So media player, I will have to set the session to true. So set active to true. Okay, these are the only changes I believe I need to make to media player and media pause. Now I'm just going to do a sanity check to the rest of the methods inside our media session class. Service created. And I'm just going to remove the play here. I'm going to manually do that. Don't need to change any of the other surface methods. Right, here's one here. Again, we're inside the media session callback here, so we do need to, we can't directly call the UI, so we will basically, we'll send a state notification to the media session, which will then inform the media controller callback that our state's changed. So we'll do that now. So it's very similar to the play and pause. So we use the playback state to set the state. So basically this is going to be very similar, and I think I will do a bit of copy and paste here. This is going to be very similar to the media pause. So I'm going to grab a few lines of code here. And put it down into the on completion here. So on completion we've actually stopped, so we're going to support either a play or a stop request. I'm going to change the state to actually stopped in this case. So we are stopped. and then I will set that to the media session playback as well. And basically that will notify us, because we're sending a state change, that will notify the get controller callback to update the UI as such. And all the audio focus stuff can say the same. So I believe at this stage we've now completed the, let's get some context here, we've now completed the media session callback here. We've now completed this portion of here. Okay, this tutorial's now gone to about 30 minutes, maybe longer for you. So I'm going to now stop this tutorial at this stage and move across to the recording of part 2, which will be the media controller part. Apologies for that, there's a lot of work involved in this, but at least we're focusing on just one part, just to focus your minds. And you can clearly see there's 2 main parts for when you're implementing the media session and media controller to support your media players basically. So we'll conclude this tutorial. If you want to get notified of my tutorials, don't forget to subscribe to the button down below. It is a clickable link. And surrounding me is all my social media links. So we've got the normal suspects to the right there. Directly above me is a link to my website. I don't respond to any questions. If you do need my help, it means you need my time. Time is money. You can contact me on Code Mentor or contact me through my email address as well. Anyway, that's all for this one. Thank you for taking the patience to watch this one. Part 2 will be just around the corner. Bye for now.